All right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to tonight's program. My name is David Matney with the Living in Omaha YouTube channel and with Nebraska Realty. And tonight we're going to talk about what happens when you're selling a home after someone passes away. So I got a really special guest on tonight. And if you can hear me okay in the comments section, let me know in the comments that you can hear me and where you're from. So let me know in the comments section where you're from. And we're going to bring on tonight's guest. It's been a longtime friend of mine. He's been in the business a very long time. And he actually is a senior real estate specialist, and that is someone, it's a designation by the National Association of Realtors, and it's an expert who is helping families navigate senior transitions, estate sales, and probate sales. So all right, we got MH08. All right, we can in the peanut gallery, you can hear me just fine. Okay, terrific. All right, MH08. All right, without further ado, I'm going to bring our guest on. And I got Bud Thomsen. Hey, Bud, how we doing?
Hey, pretty good, David. Hey, for the record, I think you've been in business a year or two longer than I have.
All right. Well, I was thinking about that today. It's been, I think we met, I mean, at Randall back in the day, didn't it? And it was like 20, it was 20,
20
I
years
know
ago.
20 plus
Yeah.
years ago. So, all right. And we got Croy West is in the house. All right, Croy. Well, thanks for joining us tonight. All right. Well, Bud, tell us a little bit about, and you're part of a team that a real estate team, and each one of you, was kind of talking before the show that each one of you has a specialty. So tell us a little bit about that, Bud.
You know, it's interesting. I like it a lot. It took me, I'm a cantankerous old fella, and I didn't get into teams. I didn't want to be a part of a team, and I didn't want to run one. But over the last couple of years, I felt that what was going on in our Lincoln office of Nebraska Realty with Alicia Crastle and her team made a lot of sense. You know, they call it the Nebraska Realty Specialty Group.
Okay.
And so each person in the team has a specialty, and I could read them off. Like Alicia herself is more of a downsizing and transitioning expert. We're all SRES. We're all senior real estate specialists. You know, that's the first thing. Everybody has to be one of those. We have Rose. I'm going to leave out last names, but she has a background in dementia. She lost her husband to dementia, so she has a special skill of how to work with a family that's dealing with that or has dealt with it.
Right.
TJ Crastle is Alicia's son. He is a veteran.
Okay.
And George Simmons is also a veteran. And those two fellows know all the ins and outs of working with the VA and
gotcha.
this of what happens within the state in the VA. Our newest guy is a fellow named Jason, and he is a hands-on type contractor and real estate guy.
Okay.
He's getting trained now in what they call CAP. It is the certified aging in place contract.
Okay.
You know, and that's a big deal.
Right.
I have a friend here in Omaha that is also one of these, or he's been one of these, and he and I have done talks in the past. But you know, like the guy that I know in Omaha here, he has an occupational therapy.
Okay.
He's also a licensed contractor in Nebraska, and he does all sorts of work in houses for people who want to age in place and stay.
Right.
Yeah. So that's the team. And then they look at me as the old guy, and we got into probates and estates about 10 years ago. And, so that's what my specialty in the group.
And I know you've been doing the probate thing for a long time. For those that don't know, can you kind of explain, what exactly is probate? How does that work? You know, when someone passes away and there's a house involved, talk us through that as far as the process of that goes.
Yeah, I'm not a lawyer.
And that's true too. Thank you. Thank you, bud. Tonight's conversation is just for information purposes. We're not
Right.
practicing
Yeah.
law or anything like that. It's
So
exactly.
if I
Thank
get
you,
out,
bud. So,
if I get out of line, just slap me, Dave. If I get out of line, but
well, thanks for giving us the disclaimer.
I used to misuse the term probate as an event
Okay.
or something special, but it's really a process, a legal process
Okay.
of how to deal with the property and the assets of a deceased person.
Okay.
And a person can be intestate or testate with a will or without a will and with a will,
Right.
or have a trust.
Okay.
A side note is if somebody's run around intestate
Mm-hmm.
or their estate is, and they have not hired a lawyer, I
Right.
run away. As a matter of fact, it's like I draw the line. That's one of the boundaries I don't go across. Is I can refer a lot of attorneys because they're
Right.
good. They're good referral helpers with my business. They're great people, regardless of what everybody thinks of lawyers. I think they're great, but anyway, so probate is a process. It's a process of a family going to a lawyer, and the lawyer takes it to a court. Actually,
Okay.
you can do it without the lawyer, but that's suicidal.
Right.
Let's say they have their attorney. They go to the court. There's a special probate court, and it's on the third floor of the courthouse in Douglas County, Omaha, and I've been there. But anyway.
Okay.
And they appeal to the judge to assign a person of the family, probably, or even the attorney. It couldn't be the personal representative. In other parts of the country, they're called an executor.
Gotcha. Okay.
Here in Nebraska, they're PRs, personal representatives. And then with I call it the supervision of the lawyer, who is supervised basically by the judge. The lawyer supervises how that personal representative will inventory all the property and assets and bring them back to the attorney, and with that stuff.
Okay.
They all go back to court, and the court will issue the letters of, what do you call it? You have it in the notes, and it's called testamentary.
Okay.
Yeah, letters of testamentary. And that pretty much, I'm not a lawyer, gives the authority to the personal representative to start disposing of property.
Gotcha.
That's kind of the part where I start coming into the picture. Before I got into the glamorous world of real estate, I spent 30 years in engineering and construction management. I had a construction engineering degree from good old Nebraska U.
Yeah.
I spent 30 years managing one sort of project or another in construction.
Right.
So working a family through the probate process with their attorney and the heirs and the vendors and all this stuff is just it's just like what I've done for the last 50 years, So
gotcha. Okay.
So it's kind of an answer to your question, but I wandered off. I warned you to do that. That's a danger of working with an old guy. He has too many stories and all the time in the world to tell them.
I tell some of the same stories. I do it on video too, where I tell the same story on video, but I'm like, well, we always get new viewers because nobody.
But back to that Nebraska Realty specialty group. I mean, Alicia Crastle has really done an awesome job of putting that together. And I have taken an attempt at it over the last 10 years, but never got it together like she has it. And I said, I'm going to hook my wagon to her horse. And it's blossomed. It started out with she does monthly seminars for seniors.
Okay, yeah, that's I was going to mention that, where you guys hold seminars.
Yep, no sales pitches. It just bring information, bring a panel together of on a different topic, one or another. Like I was saying earlier, one of her favorite Lincoln attorneys and I were the panel one day, and we talked our way through what we're talking about tonight.
Exactly.
And she, last couple weeks ago, she had 4 experts in Medicare, Medicaid, and the sign-up period that goes on now.
Right.
So that happens. And what's cool is she started out with a crowd of about 4,
Right.
but 2 months ago, she was putting 140 people in a room.
Wow.
Now,
Wow.
this
Yeah.
last month on Medicare, Medicaid, which gets
Mhm.
really boring in my books, the crowd dropped off a little bit. But next month, she's going to be exploring senior living around the Lincoln area, maybe a little bit of the Omaha area, and what's
Gotcha.
available and what it costs to do it. And she'll probably get the crowd back up to about 150.
Wow.
So
Okay.
in our world, the real estate world, that's pretty amazing.
Right. Right.
And so, yeah.
And so if somebody was interested in attending one of those seminars, I can have them reach out to you and you can hook them up
Sure.
if
Yep.
they want to send you a text or give
Yep.
you a buzz. Okay.
Yep.
Now, Bud, going back to the probate process,
Mhm.
okay, and you say, hey, somebody that dies intestate without a will, you're not touching that thing because that's going to take an extreme amount of time. Is that correct?
Well, sure. And
Yeah.
they may wander out there like a for sale by owner and sell something they weren't authorized to sell by any
Yeah.
court. But, it's going to be slamming into a brick wall the day that they take that signed off, agreed to purchase agreement
Right.
because they can't get around a title company. They still got to
Right.
go. And the title company is going to throw their hands up and say, what did you do?
Yeah.
In your little prompt notes, you talk about death certificates and all the sort of
Mhm.
things that you have to put together to do this right. And there are firms, there are some very good firms in Omaha, Lincoln too,
Okay.
that are senior. They call them basically estate attorneys. They're not like your trial attorneys or corporate attorneys, but they work with the states. And I've made friends with several of them, and they're good people, and they know what they're doing. And somewhere else, I think you'll ask me, when do I know when to sell the house? And
Mhm.
it's right after I call or visit the lawyer.
Okay.
The personal representative says, "Yeah, we're ready to go." Yep, and that's fine. But I start a dialogue with every attorney. And
Gotcha.
of course, they're CC'd, they're copied on every purchase agreement, listing
Right.
agreement, addendum, everything. I make sure they get everything.
Right.
So when the lawyer says it's time to go, we go. And I
Okay.
want to throw this in because I don't want to forget it later. But what I tell families,
Mhm.
if they're just kind of starting working through this process, assuming, I really don't even know they exist until they filed the probate filing.
Okay.
I use a database as the county public records, and I reach out to these people.
Mhm.
And once they've got to that point, I try to get to them sooner. Actually, through the seminars, I try to get to them and say,
Okay.
if you've had somebody pass on in your family,
Mhm.
the first thing you do is change the locks on the house. The
Yep.
second thing you do is maintain security so people don't walk off of grandma's TV set and grandma's something else.
Oh yeah.
And even if they said, grandma said I could have it, well, fine.
Right.
The referee in all this is the lawyer. Go ask
Gotcha.
the lawyer if it's okay if I take that.
Right.
But I tell people,
Right.
change the locks right now. I mean, I just
Right.
went through this with my mother about 2 years ago, and some of my ne'er-do-well nephews and nieces. My kids are great, but
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
I talked to her, my sister, and she's dang well changed those locks right away on the house.
Right. Right.
You have to keep it under control.
Right.
Otherwise you have all these feuds, and it goes back to intestate. Now you've wandered around and you made all these deals, and now somehow you took it to title company. It probably won't get passed. You probably won't close it, but people start filing lawsuits and fighting each other.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
So go ahead.
how long is that process? Like, let's say from the date of death, I know every case is going to be different, but
Mhm.
typically how long is it from let's say the date of death to where it's gone through probate and now you're given the green light to put the home on the market?
Okay.
About how long is that typically?
I'm going to say typically it's about 3 months or so. Now,
Okay.
I will say I've seen them file the day after the funeral. I mean, the family is still in Omaha. They came for
Okay.
the funeral. While they were there, they all knew the passing was going to happen fairly soon. They may have been talking.
Gotcha.
The day after the funeral, if it's a business day, they hook up with their lawyer and they start
Okay.
the process. And
Gotcha. Okay.
or in other cases, it might be, I've seen up to 3 years
Wow. Yeah.
before they, because you got some niece that's living there and she won't move out, and
Yeah.
yeah, so they can't file the probate, or there's all sorts of legal things happening that have to fall in place before the lawyer or the judge say, yeah, now we should file the probate.
Gotcha.
But it's really under lock and key. The whole set of assets are under lock and key, or they better be.
Right.
From the moment of passing. Before, you and I both know that before death, it's called power of attorney.
Right.
And then at death, it becomes no power of attorney, but you better be lining up a personal representative.
Gotcha. Okay.
Get the checkbooks under control. That's the thing.
And MH08 says, I'm the same way. Grandpa's dispatch stories.
Well, you want to run a couple extra hours, we'll just bore the daylights out of people. Wait till I start into farm boy stories.
Okay. And then MH08 says, had a family member who died without a will, took 5 years to settle the estate.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
then we have James is in the Clark house. James is in the Clark. James is in the house. Hey, David. All right. Well, James, thanks for stopping by. I appreciate it. And then let's see. MH08 says, LOL, when my mom died, my sister and I argued about what we weren't gonna take.
Well, I know we're going to talk about clean out people pretty soon, right?
Yeah. Let's kind of touch on that. Let's talk about cleanouts. And I just had a client that I'm helping out, a longtime client that went through that clean out process, and that can take a while too. So tell us a little about that. But
yes, I've seen people my age, husband and wife, trying to clean out mom's house.
Oh boy.
Their mom was in her 90s or more,
Right.
These people are trying to clean it out, and they're thinking between him and her, they can haul a washing machine out of the basement up the stairway. And,
oh geez.
That's I tell people, I said, there's so many ways to get this done that you don't have to work so hard. People,
right.
They wait too long, they worry too much, and they take on work they shouldn't be taking on.
Gotcha.
But where are we going with that one, David?
You covered it. Yeah, I know you covered it. Hey, and we got Clark is in the house. Hey, David. Hey, Clark. Thanks for stopping by. All right, and then Croy West got a chuckle out of MOHO on that one. So now, as far as talking about, we kind of touched a little bit about this earlier in terms of the title company. What documents does the title company need or going to ask for when there is a probate situation and when you're selling an estate sale? That sort of thing.
Yeah, you and I both know, first of all, liens have to be cleared, and they have to confirm that. Loans have to be identified and be prepared to be cleared. And the letters of testamentary and the will. I don't know if they have to see the will or not. I'm not a lawyer, but I know they want to see all the purchase agreements and all that, and death certificates.
Okay.
I was talking to a guy the other day, and I said, "You got a handful of those?" He says, "Yeah, I got 8 of them. 8 death certificates." Well, it takes a slug of them to go through the process. So so it's standard real estate plus several other things. And that's my frustration as a real estate agent, is there's a lot of people that run around saying, yeah, me too, I'll do one. And as a matter of fact, I was one of them before I knew what I was doing. like you said, we took the training in senior real estate specialist from the National Association of Realtors, and then beyond that, I took a whole bunch of training and coaching from the people that work estate probates, and also senior transition coaches and such. Anyway.
But now we talked about this earlier, and I've got firsthand knowledge of this, and that is multiple heirs and family disputes. How how is that handled? And one heir wants to keep the house and the other one wants to sell it, or they're fighting over stuff. Who makes the ultimate decision on that? Or can you talk a little bit about that process? I'm sure that's never happened before, right? It was just
not today. Yes. Yeah, last week, yeah. But, it's got to be the judge. The lawyer's going to have to take it to the judge. Judge makes the rules, and the court or the lawyer conveys the rules to the family, and that's the way it goes. He decides. And, it goes back to that timing thing where you could be filing the day after the funeral, or you could be filing 3 years later, like you had on here a while ago. Some of it's because of just infighting, or I've got one right now where one of the daughters is a single mom of 2 kids and wants to stay in the house. And the other daughter wants it all taken care of and sold, so the worst I've seen in that situation is I saw a son removed from a house by a constable.
Okay. Yeah.
A constable, a sheriff's deputy.
Right.
So that's the far extreme, but that all happens through judges and courts. It's like you and I don't mess with that stuff. But,
right. No, that's, what about, what's your advice, or what do you recommend? And I know every situation is going to be different between as is and then making repairs. How do you fall on that? Or do you see, what are your kind of thoughts on that? Is it better to, let's say there's some deferred maintenance. Is it better sometimes to sell it as is, or do you suggest going in there? What's your thought process on that?
Every case is different, but I had one on 48th and Harrison not too long back, around in that area, and we thought that on a good day in perfect condition, that house would be fixed up and by a flipper and could sell for about a 210.
Right.
I do a lot of estimates.
Yep.
I actually have outlines that I've gotten from flippers.
Okay.
And as I was trained by one of the flippers here in town, but
and
I can walk through it and pretty much figure out what it needs here and there and there and there, and then add it up and subtract it from retail, real nice condition value. So those two things happen with every house. One the other day was just carpet and paint, not too big a deal. 15 grand, we'll be done with that, and a 2-story Hearthstone. So but I have to sit with the family, not even the family really, it's just the PR. Of course, the family a lot of times is listening while we're sitting there, but and say, okay, who's the buyer? Let's start with the buyer. Who's going to buy this house? And we start with which retail people would want it. Is it a first-time homeowner family, or a high school kid family, or what is it? You start there. Now, what is expected in this neighborhood? There are some really good people that I know here in town that do a really nice job, and there are some that don't. So, of the flipper type guys. And so we try to figure out who's going to be the buyer. And then I'll back off. I mean, I've had them where my estimates would be 10,000 for the clean out crew and 80,000 to fix it back up. And still the flipper that bought it figured more like 10 plus 100 instead of 80. So you take a $200,000 house and barely get 100 out of it. So
Right.
And those guys do a pretty good job of do-it-yourself and home inspections as they walk it and look at it.
Right.
Very seldom is there a home inspector involved in these. So is
Yeah.
it going to be as is or it's not? Is the family in a position, is the estate in a position where they've got the money to pay to fix it up? The one
Right.
that I mentioned a while ago, I know the bill was 10 grand for a clean out crew that worked there off and on for 3 weeks.
Wow.
It cost them 4 big dumpsters, 20 footers, it's like, and it goes on and on. But the good thing there was the estate had money.
Yep.
And the other good thing was the estate money was held in a special trust checking account by the lawyer. He
Gotcha.
had the checkbook and the ink pen.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that was a sweet deal. I'm working on the other hand with some people right now that don't have cash
Right.
in the estate. So they're going to get the equity out and hope they can pay the bills with it. That's kind of tough.
Right.
I was whining to my favorite clean out guy today about that. So is it going to be something he's willing to wait? Because I'm actually the one I was quoting to him. I did my walkthrough and I estimated it was worse than a $10,000 one. It's more like 14,000.
Wow.
In Ralston,
Yeah.
So does he want to bank finance $14,000 worth of work and then, or do we sell it as is? Which means, you not only you start looking at tens of thousands of dollars if you leave a house in that sort of condition. Most of the as is sales that I do, most of them are as is, but I've gotten to the point now where I don't even let people get away with, I'm going to kind of pick up what I want out of the house and leave the trash. It's like, no.
Right.
It's going to be broom clean. I call it broom clean.
Right.
You don't have to clean the cabinets, but it's going to be broom clean so we can see the drywall, we can see the floors.
Yeah.
We can see the basement walls, the furnace, stuff like that.
Yeah. I had one where, oh, go ahead. I had one that, this was, during a few years back, and the buyer decided, hey, we will clean it out for you, and the lady loved it, and she got to take whatever she wanted initially, but she had so much stuff that, but the buyer was willing to go in there and clean it out for her, and the seller was thrilled. So I've seen that situation too, where the buyer was willing to take it on, because they were going to gut it anyway. But
and you think about seasonality.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the stuff I do is opposite the traditional real estate season.
Okay, talk a little bit about that.
Because here we are in October.
Right.
I'm telling several people sitting on the fence with different houses around town that now is the time that a contractor who's had a crew of people that he really liked that have been framing houses or putting on decks or doing concrete work all summer.
Right.
And he really doesn't want this crew to disappear for the winter and come back in the spring. So he'll buy a house like this and flip it out. And those are the guys more likely to say, yeah, I'll take it like it is. I can get dumpsters and I got the crew.
Yeah.
One thing I want to throw in real quick. I don't know how many times I've seen people say, I can go get this done cheaper. Or I can get somebody to come clean that house out.
Right.
And I say, why don't you visualize Mutt and Jeff down in the basement, got a washing machine, they're carrying it up the stairs, and Mutt's on the downside, and he falls back. He falls backwards. He breaks his back.
Right.
What happens? I've had to talk to lawyers about this. I says, what happens? I said, you've just burnt the estate, haven't you? The whole estate will go because nobody had insurance. So now I work mainly with one clean out crew because I know
that's a good point.
I've seen lawyers turn white. So,
because everybody, it's it's kind of like being a landlord. It's not if you're going to be sued, it's when you'll be sued. And that isn't, I mean, that right there is worth a lot of that little nugget right there is worth a lot because sure there's people that can do it cheaper, but then what happens? I mean, you're doing going some stairs and you fall backwards and you're carrying a washing machine. That ain't going to be pretty. You know,
No.
that's going to be, that might be, yeah, that's not going to, I bet you the lawyer would turn white on that
Oh
because
yeah.
boy,
I learned my lessons back in construction. I ran a lot of projects, and it would happen. There'd be legitimate injuries, and there would be fakes. Well, it didn't matter. The fakes made a lot of money.
Yeah. It's kind of like when buyers are enthusiastic about going to look at new construction.
Mhm.
Hey, that is a job site. We don't belong on a job site. And that'll make your hair turn gray and it's like that is not where we belong. What are some of the common mistakes that you see people make in this process?
Here's my list right there.
Okay.
I guess wait a minute, it's the other page. Yeah. Okay. First of all, I'm going to say they overthink it.
Okay.
And they procrastinate, and they work too hard. Most of the time, the estate cleanout guy is going to go hold the bill until escrow and close it out. Because I was telling the same guy today, I said, you can put a mechanics lien on anything for any reason.
Right.
And those title companies their heads will explode until that's cleaned up, and it isn't going to close.
Yeah.
So quit trying to haul a washing machine out of the basement when you're 65 years old.
Right.
Get past that. And some people over research. There's always the people with. I have a great website with glossaries, and I think it comes across here somewhere. But yeah, check it out. I think it's about 3 tab. I buy most of this website from the people that help me with the personal or with the estates probates.
Okay.
So, but the glossary is handy for people. But if they're going to geek out and research, go there. Don't go to half-ass comments all over the
internet. Don't make giant financial decisions off of Reddit.
Yeah.
Or some guy on YouTube.
So make sure you got a lawyer on board right away, or maybe even usually a lot of times it's the lawyer that made out the will. Mm-hmm. And there's a little side observation. Properties that go into probate are usually not as high value as properties that have trusts. And that's usually the case because the guys who had trusts probably had a golfing buddy who was an attorney.
Gotcha. Okay.
But Joe Lunchbucket went somewhere because they said go see this lawyer, and they filed that they made their deed out. So now the family, 2 decades later or 3, goes back to the same attorney. But that's all right. I will say too, around Douglas County, which I've been doing for about 10 years, used to be every month I got about 125 filings. Of probate, not counting trusts.
Right.
Now it's more like about 80. And I'm thinking more people are starting to respect the system and get their will in place, cleaned up, updated, or their trust. Oh, I like Clark.
All right. Yeah, good. That's interesting. Good information. Exactly. Awesome.
So actually the number of probate cases is going down.
Gotcha.
In my book, and now I'm doing Lancaster and Sarpy County also with Douglas, but so I can do those 3 counties now and end up with about 120 some leads. I shouldn't call them leads. I should call them probate filings per month.
Right.
And and one thing that does hold true is the number per month will go up between, let's say it used to go from 150 to about 80 in different months. It wasn't that more people were dying. In certain months, but the court was on vacation, or Or there was a 2-3 day holiday in the middle of that.
Okay. So that
That's
all
what
makes it different. Yeah.
there may not have been 20 working days in that month.
Okay. So more people aren't okay. Because then you think, well, it's like, well, why are people always dying around here? Okay. So
Yeah,
that makes sense. Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So, I'm off on a tangent again. You got to bring me back in line.
That's all right.
That's the mistakes I hate seeing people make, is they work too darn hard.
Right.
They don't get a lawyer in place early enough, and they don't talk to me soon enough, because I can help them avoid a bunch of money and work that they
Yeah.
don't know any better. Because it's a life experience you only go through.
Right.
Well, I guess my wife and I've been through it 4 times, right, with
Mhm.
4 parents, and so anyway, back to you.
All right. MH08 says, living in Omaha, David Matney always has the most excellent guests. Yes, I do. Thank you, MH08. And then Son of Joxer, let's see here. We have my mom is in her early 80s. Hopefully, she'll be with us another decade. Exactly. When she passes, we plan to auction off the furniture and sell the house. Not sure yet if we'll need a realtor in rural Iowa.
Well, rule of thumb is, and I'm not a lawyer, but the rule of thumb is, if your mom is still alive, she can sell anything she wants.
Okay.
But once she passes, it has to go into a freeze and let the court system control how it happens.
Gotcha.
If she wants to sell something to one favorite daughter and not to the other daughter, let her do it. Let them sue each other. But it wasn't because they have to blame mom, or what, they don't blame the daughter or the court.
Right.
So here we go. Yeah.
Yep.
I got off on a tangent again. Sorry.
Nope, that's good. And then Clark says, do you see a lot of real estate held up in the probate process for a long time when you do, when they do and don't have a will?
Like I said, if they don't have a will, that means they probably don't have an attorney. And I do not. As a matter of fact, I don't work with them. I don't even try. I like going back to my list of per month of probate filings. There'll be 2 or 3 or 4 in Douglas or Sarpy or Lancaster that they don't offer the information about the attorney, which means they went into the courthouse and did it. Okay. I will not even call those people.
Gotcha. Okay.
I don't even go there.
Right.
So I hope that answered his question. If they don't have a will, it's a mess. Just let it go.
Right.
Of course, if it's your family, go pay for the attorney.
Right.
First of most of those guys will give you a free consultation at the first visit.
Yeah.
So take them up on that. If you can't think of somebody in Douglas, Sarpy, or Lancaster County that will give you a free consultation, call me and I'll help you find them.
Okay. Good question. And then South Loop River Homestead says, is a will valid forever or is there a time limit? Good question.
Better asking a lawyer.
That's probably an attorney question, but that's a great question, South Loop River Homestead. Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah.
I don't. You better out there, wherever South Loop River Homestead guy is.
He's probably at South Loop River.
I got to throw in a joke here. I got to throw a lawyer joke here. One of the best lawyer jokes. I forgot all the blonde lawyer jokes I ever heard. I can't remember any of them. But there's one joke, because I come from a small town and Jane's stepdad was an attorney.
Okay.
But the joke is, in a small town, one lawyer will starve to death.
Okay.
But 2 lawyers in the same small town will get rich. And I believe it. Yeah.
I believe that. Yeah. When my parents passed away, that was they had a trust, but even with a trust, it was still a nightmare, just because it was it was not amicable type of thing. Does that a lot of okay. And then South Loop River Homesteads, I'm in the 2nd largest county in Nebraska. All right, cool. Excellent.
So the lawyers own half of it then.
Well, last week we had I had Bob Osborne on, and we talked about land sales, and he drives all over Nebraska selling farm ground and hunting ground and that sort of thing. So he was a great guest last week. So
I saw that one. That was good.
excellent. Yeah. No. What about we kind of talked a little bit about this earlier, but as far as insurance goes, okay, how how do they handle, like, if there's a mortgage on the property, does the attorney work with the personal representative to keep paying those bills? How do you make sure that none of that gets
Forgotten.
Yeah. I mean, does that happen, or
I haven't seen a case of where it's forgotten. That's a good question for a title company, but I know lawyers and PRs or the lawyer will direct the PR to keep up with that insurance policy and the house payments and the property taxes if they're not escrowed into the house payment.
right.
He's requiring that, and of course you and I are requiring that as we advertise a house for sale. It better be under insurance, and
Right.
and house payments should hopefully are up to date.
Right.
But they're not going to get past the escrow or the closer.
Right.
And now you got a disaster on your hands. So I would, that's all I'd say about that. But
What about people? Do you run across a lot of sellers who want to, I mean, there's always a contingent of folks that want to save as much money as possible, who think, what, hey, are there a lot of, heirs that will say, hey, we want to try for sale by owner? Do you run across many for
Yeah.
sale by owners like
Yeah.
that?
I put them in pretty much the same category as the people that didn't get a lawyer.
Right.
It's like, bye,
Yeah.
I will try to keep track of them and nurture them if they want some nurturing, give them a little help once in a while.
Sure.
Because what's the statistics? Like 80% of the for sale by owners end up using an agent someday.
Exactly.
And I'm just hoping they use somebody that's qualified and trained
Right.
to handle this stuff.
Well, what about folks that, I'm sure you run into this too, that, that's kind of along that category where, where they see a sign out there that says we buy homes for cash, or situations like that. So many of those folks that, some of those signs, nothing against those folks with signs, but it's good to at least have a conversation, because they can sometimes leave a lot of money on the table if they're going to, sell this. You'd be surprised. And you've seen this too, bud, where, a house will have a lot of disrepair to it, and boy, people will be all over it, in terms of you expose it to the market, where they think, well, this house has no value. Sometimes the rougher the house is, the more activity it gets. Have you seen that as well?
Oh, sure. A lot of it's location. Does it
Yep.
fit the neighborhood, fit the family that eventually has it, when the flipper's done?
Yeah.
I look at those, you and I know that there aren't as many signs in a ditch as there used to be,
Right.
thanks to our good old pal, Paul Wojcicki.
He's been a guest on the program too.
They got some legislation done to, what is it basically? I think it is, you can't be not a flipper, but a wholesaler.
A wholesaling,
That's the dirtiest thing I've ever.
Yeah. I mean, for the folks that don't know what wholesaling is, kind of give a real quick definition of that.
All right.
Okay.
Let's say there's a house that's kind of tired, and the experts involved, the flippers and the agents and all, that say, okay, after you do a normal amount of repair work to it, it's going to be worth $250.
Yeah.
The way it's sitting, it's probably $200. Well, the first guys, I call them hearse chasers, or pawn stars in a pickup truck.
Right.
I have very little use for them, but anyway, the first people that the grieving family hears from are these guys.
Yeah.
I buy houses for cash and, that sort of thing.
Right.
And the wholesalers were the worst because they would make a contract that had a lot of contingencies in it, but buried in those contingencies. All right, so it's a 250 and it's going to be selling at 200. He
Mhm.
might he'd write an offer at about 150. I tell people now, I use them for checks a lot of time. I'll say, okay, you got numbers for a flipper.
Right.
And my number here, based on retail value minus repairs, is this.
Mhm.
I'm thinking you're going to get your price that you have in your hand from that flipper is probably 30% less than what I'm talking about.
Gotcha.
They'll say, dang, that's about right. And I said, good. That means my number is about where you want to be. So do you want to give up 30% of $260,000?
Right.
I do fraud presentations for AARP
Okay.
all over these counties. But and one of my prime peeves is
Mhm.
that, and I use an example had happened up at 156th and Dodge,
Okay.
where a guy sold his mom's house to one of these fellas, and I figured he lost over $80,000.
Wow. Yeah.
That's too bad. This was, I forgot the name of the neighborhood just to the southeast of that intersection, 156th and Dodge.
Oh,
But
Pepperwood. Pepperwood.
must be,
Or
yeah.
is it? Or is it? Wait. Was this? Or Wycliffe?
Wycliffe, yeah.
Okay.
But I talked to the guy. He got a hold of me, and
Right.
I said, okay, I want to see your contract and your paperwork. He says, they never gave me a copy of it. And I said, oh, gee.
Oh boy.
I said,
Yeah.
how'd you get through closing? Well, he says the lawyer closed it, and the lawyer
Right.
and the agent were pals. And I'm not saying, I don't want to go there, but
Right.
Anyway. So I tell people, that guy's job is to buy it 30% under what it's going to cost him so he can come up with some profit.
Right.
And if you're on the other side of it, I also tell people, that guy, if he's a flipper, he took his 401k out of the bank and he threw it all on the poker table, and it's in that house.
Right.
And he's hoping he can get it back and make 20% on his money or something.
Right.
Usually what happens, I think, is those guys work about 3 months, do it half right, half wrong, and their net proceeds equals about $5,000 a month.
Right.
They can work anywhere and get better than that. But
Right.
it's the sense of independence, and I can see where they come from. But still, if you want to sell your house to a pawn star,
Yeah.
then look them up.
Exactly. Son of Joxer is in the house. He says, for the past 2 years, I keep getting postcard cold calls, making cash offers, no assessments for my split level ranch in Midtown Omaha. I'm assuming they're all flippers. Yep. There's folks that will have in the Philippines, they will hire a call center to just dial for dollars and call throughout the city. I'm sure you've run into those folks, but and I had, for my rental properties, I would get those as well, a bunch of postcards, and cold calls. Even after I sold the house 2 years later, I'm getting, calls and stuff for it. So I don't know, their database isn't all that up to date, but yeah, those are folks, especially if they did that during the hot market. Could you imagine how much money they left on the table with that? And then MH08 says, I get those too. I tell them, give me $500,000 and I'll be out tomorrow. Well, that's
yeah. There are some good, high quality guys that do that,
right,
and do a good living. Here, Gretna, Lincoln, I know a few of them.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah. Then MHS, that explains the accent. Yeah. They're trying to earn a living. You know what I mean? I had a past client that contacted me and said, well, hey, I got an offer for 150,000, and she wasn't aware of what was going on currently in the market. And I'm like, they said 150 cash. And I'm like, your house is worth 230. Why do you want to get, why are you? And she's like, oh, and I'm like, yeah, it's just amazing what people will leave on the table. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, I've had a couple rentals go sideways where it's like, you know, even when you want to get rid of the thing, there's still value there. And if you get exposed to and that's what folks sometimes get confused about, or they don't understand the value of putting it on the open market. When you put it on that open market, list it with a real estate agent,
Mhm.
you're getting full exposure to the marketplace, and that's going to drive up the price. And when we had a few years ago when the market was so hot, you'd have a buyer, and I don't know about you, but I would tell my buyers, it's like, hey, let's look for a for sale by owner, because we won't be competing with 20 offers. We might only have 2 offers,
Well, that's a good point.
and you'll get a lot more, you'll get a better deal in that hot market, because that for sale by owner doesn't know that they could, uh, you could
Mhm.
even get inspections done and things like that, which now the market we're in right now, the market is always changing, but it's shifted. It's not near the market that it was. Do you deal with that too, Bud, in terms of with a personal representative wanting to overprice the property? Do you have to deal with that as is or um
I think I think they have more heartburn on my estimate of the repair cost and how bad off the house is. Well,
okay.
what do you mean you don't like green shag carpet? What do you mean? There's some of that. But I will say, as the market has gotten tougher,
Mhm.
I see ne'er-do-well nieces and nephews digging their fingernails deeper into the carpet and not moving out of grandma's free house.
Gotcha. Yeah. I'm
There's more of that happening.
right. I can see that, just because it's like, well, then they have to go out and find a place,
Yeah.
and that's,
And
and
they couldn't finance the mailbox, let alone the house.
right, exactly. Yeah. MH08 said we had orange shag carpet in the 70s. You know what? MH08, so did we. My dad had orange shag carpet, and yeah, so I'm with you on that. And it was my dad would always buy remnants too. I knew what a
Yeah.
it would be.
So yeah, so what? Every bedroom's a different carpet. So what?
The fact that I know what a remnant is.
Yeah. At least I covered up that terrible oak floor stuff. Now your feet aren't cold.
Exactly. So we had that too. That is great. Any last pieces of advice, or does anybody have any other last questions? Can you think of anything else that people should know in terms of in an estate sale, that sort of thing? Any last pieces of advice that you can think of? One thing that um
I guess I'll go back to the very beginning when I said there's 3,000 agents in this area of our MLS,
mhm,
and every one of them will be approached somewhere along the line to do an estate, a probate trust, whatever. And every one of them will say, "Yeah, me too. I can do it."
right.
That's like going to a different kind of surgeon. That's like, you want your foot worked on? Do you use a brain surgeon? I don't know.
Right, right.
It's same with lawyers. Lawyers are the same way. I deal with some lawyers that really know their stuff, and I deal with
Yep,
lawyers that did the Me Too. And that's the big thing. Look for the qualifications, look for their track record, and
gotcha.
before you hook up with a lawyer, or you hook up. Boy, I've seen some crappy stuff come out of some lawyers around town, but
Right.
it's
They're not all just like agents. They're not all created equal. I mean,
that's right.
there
Their
are
own.
different skill sets
Yep.
and experience levels and all that sort of thing. So yeah, that's a great point. So no,
Yeah.
that's a great piece of advice there. No,
Yeah.
exactly. And then Clark says, "Good show tonight. Thanks, David and Bud." Well, Clark, thank you for stopping by. Clark is a realtor in Atlanta, Georgia. So if
Well, he looks like
don't
a smart guy. I think
Yeah,
it's cool.
that's a cool avatar. That is, yeah. And Clark has a show on Sunday evenings. That's always a great program. So Clark, we always appreciate, and he's one of my moderators. So I always appreciate Clark stopping by and everything. So appreciate that, Clark. Well, bud, I tell you what, I appreciate you stopping by and helping me out tonight, and great information. And with that, any other words or any other words of wisdom?
No, anybody that's going through it, I offer my condolences. It's not the
Yeah, it's a
easiest thing in the
sensitive.
world.
It's
It's tough, and
it is. Yeah, that's
it's one challenge I have is being too happy when I go see people.
right. You're a fun guy. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's
But
yeah.
they may
No,
not be in a good mood.
right. Yeah, there's a lot of emotion involved with that. That's
Yeah,
another
yeah,
another thing to navigate, and it's tough to and like I said, you're dealing with it all phases of it, where somebody may not want to get out of their house,
all
and
right.
or they're going into a nursing home or assisted living and that sort of thing, and that's another thing to navigate. You help people with that on the all aspects senior side. So, well, but I tell you what, I really appreciate, and folks can reach out to you at that number. Okay.
Yeah, appreciate that.
And
Yeah,
thanks again tonight. And you have a great day, and we'll chat later on.
thanks, David.
All right. You're welcome. All right. Okay. Well, hey, everybody. I tell you what, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, be sure to do so. We're just over 6,000 subs. And here's the channel. That's my channel there, Living in Omaha. And if you ever want to schedule a consultation, or if you need to reach out, my number is right on the screen there, or you can scan that QR code and schedule an appointment and that sort of thing. And then a little bit behind on content. So I need to get a couple videos out. But anyway, I appreciate everybody stopping by tonight, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.